Historic Properties Commission regular July meeting 2020 to order at 6:12 p.m. Via Zoom, July 27th. In attendance are Tom Chase, Jean McClellan, Harold Bishop, and Kristen Heidert. And I believe we have enough permanent members that we don't need to designate an alternate.
I think you can designate Harold as an alternate, serving as a permanent member up to the number of 5.
Okay. So Harold Bishop, designated as an alternate. And I sent everyone the February meeting minutes. I wrote the January meeting minutes on the agenda because I was confused. So if we want to review the February minutes and make any corrections.
I've reviewed them and they look fine.
I've reviewed them too.
Okay.
I make a motion that we adopt the regular meeting minutes for Monday, February 24th of this year.
Kristen, I was not in attendance, so probably someone else. Well, I guess I could second, but better if someone else, if Harold did.
Harold, you want to approve the meeting minutes from February 2020?
I wasn't there for February 27th, so I can't.
Oh, February 24th. So I move to accept the meetings. I concur.
So who's seconding then, Kristen, for the record?
Yes, Kristen, huh?
Are you seconding?
Yes, second.
Okay.
We could vote by raising our hands.
And we have no public in attendance for this meeting. I did go to Town Hall today to pick up any correspondence. There was none, actually. So we don't have anything to report on that front. In terms of the old business, which is the reviewing and updating the barn survey, I did pass around or send out the updated Excel spreadsheet today.
Kristen, I have a question.
Yes.
On the spreadsheet, the dates are a 6-digit. I don't understand the dates.
Let me see. Which
And
dates?
Kristen, I have another question that maybe ties in before Tom's as well. The survey that is referenced is the Sturbridge survey, which is not a complete survey of the town. The complete survey done in 2007 is, I realized as I was driving around today in an air-conditioned car, looking at barns, that there were a lot of barns that had been listed in the full town survey that were not on the list we received. And what I realized was that I think you've been working off the Sturbridge survey, which was a survey of some barns. But for example, I drove down Sheldon Road to see one of my favorite places, which is the Miller's farm down there. And that still has a piggery and an ice house and the whole 9 yards, and that's not on the Sturbridge survey. So we should, I think, be working from the complete survey from 2007, which is fully listed with photographs. I don't know what the scoop is on the spreadsheet. Sorry about that.
Yeah, this was a spreadsheet that was included. This was transcribed over from a spreadsheet that I had from the binders that I picked up at Town Hall with the barn survey.
And I think what it represents is the comparison of what was on the Sturbridge survey to barns that remained in Woodstock from the Sturbridge survey in 2007, but it's not the complete survey that was done in 2007.
Is there a spreadsheet that has the complete survey from 2007?
You know, Kristen, I can't honestly tell you if it's in spreadsheet format. I do know that it's in complete photographic format with all the JPEGs listed by street address. And I was trying to send you that. I have a copy of that because I know most stuff at Town Hall we can't get at. But I do have a file of all the photographic material from that.
Okay, so it seems then that the next step would be to cross-reference the two surveys and include the barns that are from the 2006-2007 survey that are missing on the current table.
Yeah, there may be another spreadsheet. Kristen, that was a long time ago.
Right, right.
For my memory. So you're thinking we should make another spreadsheet?
No, I think
or
we should
incorporate
the existing spreadsheet and incorporate whatever's missing. Do you have a sense about a rough number of how many barns were inventoried as part of the 2007 survey?
I can't give you that number now. I just don't have it.
I'm just trying to figure out how much
it was.
Take to add the new barn, to add the additional barns to the spreadsheet.
I think maybe the Sturbridge survey included about 2/3.
Okay, okay.
But that's pretty rough.
Right, okay. But it's not as though we're looking at only 1/3 of the barns in town are in this survey and it's a big effort to get everything back in.
No, it isn't. I don't think it would be a huge effort. No.
Okay, then what I will do is I will, for the next meeting, I will go through those 2007 records, cross-reference them to this table and add everything in that isn't currently in here. But I'll keep all of the Sturbridge information because that's a nice longitudinal example of what's going on with the buildings.
Yes, I think it's important to keep that going longitudinally. Great.
Okay. Oh, and Tom, your question, excuse me for a minute. Guys, get out of here now. My dogs are wrestling. Tom, the dates that you're seeing, that is it's Excel doing one of its wonky formats. That is supposed to be the date. I'll go and change it. It was March 3rd or March 14th, 2020 that the boys and I drove around. I have no idea what that number is supposed to represent.
Yeah, I've had problems. That explains it.
But I will, I'll correct that and put that on there. And the numbers in the column, I guess the one thing too that we'll have to resolve once we update the table is any of the corresponding photos. We'll have to generate a single file that contains all the photos sort of labeled in a logical way because we'll all be taking separate photos.
Do we have a repository? I mean, can that live on one of the town computers or something? I mean,
That's a good question.
I think when the file that I have includes the street addresses of all the barns. And when we did the survey, we agreed not to publish them on the net. That was a long time ago. I don't know how people, I've raised this before. I don't know how people feel about that, but I don't think we should just put it on the town website without some consideration.
I agree. I think that's a good suggestion. I think there's value in documenting these in and of itself without posting it publicly until we get consent from the owners.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the best way forward is, again, to get a comprehensive list of all the barns, get the photos, and the sort of basic, is it there or is it not sorted out.
Yeah.
Once that is figured out, then maybe we can draft a form letter to send to people to ask if they would approve to have the photographs archived on the town website, but accessible for public viewing.
Mm-hmm. And I think we should also ask at that point for permission to submit. I don't know if you had a chance to talk to the Connecticut Trust or Preservation Connecticut about that, but I think we did not submit. It was not, our survey was not included in the statewide survey because we had objected to publishing street addresses. So
Okay, yeah.
if it's going on the town website, I think permission should also be sought for the Connecticut Trust website if they still want it.
Yeah, and Stacy Barrow and I are still in close contact. So once we have all of our information together, I can talk to her. She thought that that was a good idea last time I spoke to her, but it was a little preliminary as we didn't have any property owner approval at that point.
Yeah.
So I don't expect that will be an issue. And I expect there's a lot of errors on their website as well regarding the barns in Woodstock. So
Oh, it's terrible.
I think as part of resubmitting the information, we can correct those errors at the same time and make sure everything is consistent.
I think it would be appropriate for them simply to reproduce the, I think, pretty good set of photographs that Elaine LaChapelle and I were able to get of the barns in 2007.
Right.
And I know that file exists at Town Hall, but I do happen to have it on my computer still, thank goodness. And I can get it to you.
Okay, that sounds great.
And it's in very logical order. It's alphabetically by street and by number within street. So it's a pretty easy document to deal with.
You know, I'm wondering too, it just occurs to me when you were talking about organizing the data with the photographs. With the cemetery project, the Bradford Marcy Cemetery in Access, I believe, I am wondering if once we get to the point where we have property owner permission in part or in full to list these barns publicly, if there isn't some way that we could have it posted in a similar fashion to the way the cemetery information is posted, so that it can be sorted and searched. And of course, the information is going to be a little less, no, it won't be a little less detailed. It will include the information that you collected in the past about the type of barn it is, you know, architectural style, general state of preservation. That might be something we can consider after we get everything updated.
Yes, I mean, I'm not offering to do it necessarily, but
It's and I'm trying to think of the most expedient way to have something like that done. I guess first of all, we should see what we're dealing with in terms of content going forward and how onerous a project it would be.
Mm-hmm. I suggest if we are corresponding with owners that at this point in time, perhaps noting that through vision appraisal, information is readily available on the web, that we suggest that we might put it on the web unless people object, so that the onus is on people to object.
Yeah, and I also think with, you know, Google Maps, you can, on Google Maps, you're not getting any more of a view to that, or we're not getting any more of a view to that resource than Google is when it's driving by with its cameras.
Right.
So yeah, I agree. I think it may be, you know, a letter saying, please let us know if you object to this.
Mm-hmm.
might be a quicker way to get to where we want to be.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you put it more nicely than I did.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll have to go on and I have to search and see what the best verbiage will be for that. But yeah, I think that's a great idea.
I was wondering if we couldn't do some of this with Google Earth. And so I started to look at the ones along Route 169. The
Yep.
first one, you can see the barn from the aerial view, but you can't see it from the street because of trees. And the second one, you get a pretty good view from the street view. The third was 599 Route 169. I know Gene knows what that number. And there's a lovely view of the barn from Route 169. Almost good, I think good enough to be a included photograph. So it's, you know, you can do some from Google Earth. Oh, and then the fourth one was the real problem, which was the barn next to the Christmas barn. That is mostly destroyed. But the view from the street view looks like it's all there. And
they take Google is pretty they do those street views on a very consistent basis. So, you know, in some cases every year or every other year. And the aerials, you can actually zoom, you probably know, you can zoom to see a different time of year. So if you can't see it well in one photograph, you can slide the cursor to see it as a winter or a late fall picture where you get a better view from aerially. So it depends on the year that you're looking at.
I think, though, not to tout the photographs that Elaine and I took in 2007 too much, I think you may find that they are significantly better than what Google will give us in general.
Yes, I think so.
And they, in some cases, while our aegis was to take photographs from a public way, owners gave us, in some cases, permission to come up their driveway and take closer up photographs. So we have, you know, we were able to do that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think actually my conclusion is you can do a sort of an initial sifting sort from Google Earth, but then you're going to have to ground verify it.
Yeah.
Especially that one for the Christmas barn. I don't know what's going on there, you know. And it's I think it's Gene. I think you're you know the photographs that you and Elaine took would be extremely valuable.
They were accurate at the time.
Yeah.
They show that the Christmas barn at that point, all the barns were standing, and that's changed.
Yeah. Do you have
document the change?
Right.
Could you send me a picture of what the Christmas barn looked like on you and Elaine's photographs? I mean, it would be.
You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to try to get the whole shebang is in one file, and I'm going to send the whole file to Kristen and let you send it off from there. Okay?
Yes, that sounds reasonable. And so Jean, the photographs, so you said they're all in a JPEG format?
They are.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So the other thing and Jean, you and I had talked about this before, sort of the idea that, you know, not a lot of these barns, but many barns over time, because they're expensive to maintain and a family may not have the resources at a given time, they can have a tendency to fall apart. I guess the other thing I would be cautious of is making sure that when we're showing photographs of the changes in these buildings, these barns over time, that it's not an indictment of the property owner, that if the barn has fallen down or is in poor repair. And I guess that's kind of a tricky
Yeah.
tricky to say, because I don't want anyone to think that they're being blamed for anything. It's just that this is the state of what things are, and this is what happens over time.
I think that's a really good point, Kristen. And Harold and I both know it's work taking care of old barns. And there's always something more on ours that needs to be done.
Right.
And I don't know how we want to do that. It may be simply there are some that are up and there are some that are down.
Yeah. Well, I think too,
We
it
should
might
definitely document, for example, on Route 198, there's a beautifully cleared piece of land that I pass often on my way to Chamberlain Mill, and that was a barn site not very long ago.
Yeah, and I know on Meehan Road, I think the year we moved in 2014, the barn that was standing on Meehan Road, which was really neat, later period barn, was still standing as of 2013. And then I don't know whether it was demoed or it collapsed.
This is the balloon framing one?
Yes, yep.
I haven't been on Meehan Road for quite a while.
Yeah, there were two barns along that road. The other one, I don't know when that one came down, but the one by the White House, I think came down in 2013. And again, I don't know how it came down.
Yeah. The good news for me, I took today at 97 degrees or whatever it was to hop into my air-conditioned car and drive around Woodstock. I had a 40-mile drive, and from the northern section of Converse Road down to Butts Road, over on West Quasit and Payne District, and I've been all over town with the list at the bottom of the page that was left, the remainders, and many of the barns are in remarkably good condition or still in use. I was heartened by that, because as I drive down 169, I wouldn't have that same feeling, because there are a couple that have been just demolished altogether, and so that was the good news for me today. And I'd be very interested to see what we come up with in a comparison.
Yeah, and I think also too, now after the number of years that have gone by since the first survey, I mean, I don't know this for a fact, but I'm guessing there are different resources now available to homeowners for rehabilitation grants and things along those lines. So that's something else we could consider posting. If this goes public on the town website, we can consider posting new links about barn owner resources going forward.
Yes, although I hate to tell you, I think in 2007, as we went around, there were Connecticut Trust funds available to barn owners. Or maybe it was, or shortly thereafter. Anyway, many people, in my experience, when advised of the possibility, people didn't want to have to deal with government paperwork, basically.
Right, yeah.
It takes a lot of stuff to write a grant, a HEPTAG grant or something like that. And then there's the follow-up, and then if it's the state Historic Preservation Office, that's a whole other level. And not many people have taken advantage of it.
Right. It'll be curious to see too what sort of change there has been in property ownership over the intervening years. and whether, you know, a new generation of property owners might be more or possibly even less interested in preserving these buildings.
Yes, and I think one thing we don't have a good handle on from the 27 survey is the names of the property owners. Unless there's data at town hall. And Kristen, I'm just getting old and my memory fades.
That should all be available on Vision.
I think, yes.
So
Yeah.
I think we can actually, I can go through Vision and go, there's also some,
Yes,
there's
the ownership will be very clear with the photographs and the street number.
right, and there's a couple dicey addresses in here, as I recall, that I have to follow up on anyway. So, you know, we can list the 2007 owner and then the 2020 owner just to see how much consistency or lack of consistency there's been in holding on to these properties over those years.
That will be a job.
And how well that correlates to barn preservation, actually. That'd be an interesting
Mhm.
thing to look at. Well, anyway, we have enough to keep us busy in the short term, just finishing up getting the existing inventory documented, and I'll add the 2007 barns to it as well, so we can take care of that. And then we'll, once all that's together, we can move on from there about contacting the property owners.
Now, Kristen,
Mhm.
in the spreadsheet format, is this a document that we can all input to, or is it something that I should let you know what I see on my list and you'll do the inputting?
Let me see about getting it on Google Drive.
Oh, I don't use Google Drive.
Oh, okay. Well, then why don't you, if you want to send me, if people want to send me their information as they're completing it, I'll just update the table on my end.
Okay,
That's
that'd be
easy
great.
enough. And I like doing that sort of thing because it appeals to my OCD characteristics.
Yeah. Oh, it's a good quality.
My due diligence for transmission line surveys comes in handy with these types of things. Yeah, and you know, I think too, this may be one of those things where I can work at it piecemeal. You know, as the barn information comes in, I can at the same time pop up Vision and do the property ownership at the same time.
Yeah.
Because that way, rather than trying to do it all as one effort, which could be very discouraging, I can just chip away at it.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And if there is a way as well, the one thing I'm thinking about is how we're going to get all the photos in one place, in addition to the sort of basic data, the yes or no, is it standing or not? And I'm not, because they're going to be big files.
Well, I was able to do it, I think, as a PDF. I'm not sure. It's
Okay, well, if you can do it as a PDF, that would be great, and I can link.
from the 2007 at least.
Yeah. Microsoft Teams. All right, so it sounds like we have a plan going forward, sort of step 2 to complete this portion of the survey. Any other old business?
Oh,
Okay, any new business? Sounds like we have enough old business to keep us busy.
yeah.
Okay, well, if that is it, then would someone like to make a motion to adjourn?
I so move.
Oh,
Okay, and
So-
I said,